Hello, welcome to another episode of StarNotes. I am Lucas Didier, the sports editor, with my two guests over here. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
I am Tim Dodge. I am the photo editor here at the Star.
And I am Eddie Miller, the assistant sports editor.
So today we have a little bit of a different edition. We're kind of all guests today because most of us are not on this very often, but we're going to just have a little conversation about the new Venom movie coming out, Venom: The Last Dance. It comes out on October 24th. I've seen the first two movies. It's been a little while, but I'm a really big fan of the character of Venom. I'm a big fan of Spider-Man. I like the first two movies. I think Venom's a really huge character. It's really important to do it well, and I think that they have a pretty good take on it with these movies. So for the two of you, what are you interested to see with this movie, whether it's based off the trailer, what you've seen before? Is there anything you're excited about for this upcoming movie?
Yeah, Tom Hardy is one of my favorite actors, so I'm excited to see him in this third role. I was definitely a bigger fan of the first Venom than the second Venom. But yeah, the trailer looked good. I thought there was a funny piece where Tom Hardy says, "I wonder how Tom Cruise does this." I don't really know what he meant, but it was I always kind of like when they break the fourth wall and talk about actors. What about you, Tim?
I'm kind of excited to see what the third one will be like. I didn't see the first two, so it's $110 is the budget. So is that high? I have no idea if that's like a
wait, $110
or $110 million.
It's man, it's a tight budget. We're running a tight ship on this one. I think that's a pretty high budget. I guess I don't have a huge frame of reference for that, but that's a pretty big budget, I think, for an action movie.
Yeah,
but
perspective, Interstellar's was $165 million, so it seems pretty normal.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Like I said, from the first two. The one thing I will say about it is, I think they take more of a comedic approach to some of it than I think you could go with Venom, because Venom can be a really kind of sinister character in a way, because in some versions it's just pure chaos. One of my favorite versions is from the Spider-Man video game that came out last year, I think, which is my favorite game of all time, by the way. So, but that version, if you've played that game, he's just taking over the entire city. There's just this symbiote that's running throughout the entire city towards the end of the game, and it's a lot less human in a way, and that's how the character can be. This one I feel is a lot more of a humanized version of the character of Venom. Has a little bit more personality, it's a little funnier with it. So I guess do you guys, as a general statement, do you like when action movies do that? They can be kind of towing the line between a comedy and an action movie, or do you prefer it when it's just more serious in a general sense?
I think it kind of depends. If it's really serious, I can get really involved in that, and I can't stop watching if it's really serious. But I'm also big into comedy mixed in between.
Honestly, I like when there's comedy mixed into it. It kind of reminds me of Deadpool. I think those movies are really funny, but I feel there also does still have to be some seriousness in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's funny, it's slightly switching topics, but I didn't see this, but I heard the Joker movie that just came out, the sequel, was it was a musical and was way less serious, and everyone hated that. I haven't heard a single person say they liked it. So there's definitely a balance where I feel if you don't take it seriously enough, people are why am I even watching this? What are we doing? And I feel the thing a lot of people liked about that is it was extremely serious, and that was if you've seen that one, I don't know if you guys have, it's a very kind of intense movie about mental illness. And then from what I've heard about the second one, it's just kind of seems kind of out of place. They were just hey, we should do a musical, and it doesn't fit at all. So I definitely think there's kind of an art to balancing it. I think Venom's done okay so far. I also was going to mention, because you said you mentioned Tom Hardy, and he's one of those guys where I don't think about him as being this huge A-list character, oh yeah, he's made, I know he's a good actor, but if you look at the stuff he's been in, he's in this, so he's in the Marvel universe. He's the premier Spider-Man villain. He's Bane in Dark Knight Rises, so he's in the DC Comics universe. He's in Inception, which is one of the most well-made movies of the last 20 years probably. This really phenomenal movie with Christopher Nolan. And then he's in the Mad Max series. He's in so many huge things. So for a guy that I feel doesn't stand out like Tom Cruise or fill in whatever actor you want that you think of as like this huge name. I feel like he's in a surprising amount of stuff that's done really well and seems to do really well in it. So I do think it's kind of interesting that, he's kind of made this really impressive career in all these things, even though he maybe doesn't stand out as much as some other names. So the one thing I also will say about Venom, and I don't know how into the character you guys are, but the one thing I feel like is missing from the other two is like you don't have Spider-Man in it, which is weird because usually Venom is Spider-Man. That's where it comes from. So that is the one thing I feel like is kind of hard to pull off, is like you have this movie with the villain, but you're kind of making the villain more of the hero in their own story, which is a little unusual. Do you think that can work where you kind of like take a universe but then take away the character that kind of centralizes everything? I know Spider-Man has had a number of other movies where they're taking these other villains doing that. So what's your opinion on that?
I feel like that's like almost like a high risk, high reward situation. It's about how they do it. Because like obviously they're not going to be able to replace just like Spider-Man, but Venom's enemy, like the Spider-Man like equivalent, like if it's a good enjoyable character, then it would be a success. But I feel like that's a high risk, because if they don't make it like enjoyable enough, then anyone who was just watching it for Spider-Man probably wouldn't give it a chance.
I would say like I think it would be really cool like with different characters in it, and obviously it depends on how the movie goes and how people are going to see it like that.
And have you guys seen any of the other, like, I know that Morbius is one of them. I think they just did Madam Web, or like these other like Spider-Man characters that have gotten their movies. Have you guys seen any of those ones?
No.
Okay. I also haven't, but again, the main thing I know is that like they've been kind of notoriously bad.
Morbius.
So I also think it's funny that you have like, specifically Madam Web, Morbius. I'm blank. I don't think there's any others on top of Venom, but like those have been like pretty big flops where like everyone just kind of makes fun of them, and Venom seems like the one that's actually caught some ground, which I think is a little bit interesting, but also it's like a much more prominent character that I think most people at least kind of know who Venom is.
I have a question for you, Lucas.
Okay.
Who do you think from like the Spider-Man universe would maybe deserve a movie outside of Venom?
Well, one thing I've always said with like Spider-Man in general is like there's a lot of really good villains, and I not too long ago was like just having a conversation with a few other people. We were talking about like your top 5 favorites of like Spider-Man villains, and it's actually really difficult because there's a lot of really cool options. But I don't know, like I think it's also tough because some of them you've already seen in some other movies, because like Green Goblin's been done a couple times, like Doc Ock has been done, but I think those are really cool characters. I could see like doing something with the two of them, and I don't know how familiar you guys are with like other forms of like those two characters, but like a lot of them, they kind of have a backstory where it's like the two of them are like they were like co-workers in the past and started a business, and then one of them was pushed out and like went and did other things. And so I think the two of those characters can be interesting if you kind of have a relationship between the two of them. I think that could be, if it's done right, could do really well. That's another thing the Spider-Man game that came out a couple years ago kind of touches on, where you have those two characters kind of talking about stuff in the past, that kind of how their relationship is and kind of rocky. So I think if you did something like that, kind of like built the world a little bit, instead of just like, oh, here's Spider-Man and here's these guys that supposedly have this history that goes really far back. So I think those two are definitely ones that come to mind that could do really well. I also think it could be interesting, like we've had the Miles Morales movies have come out, the animated versions, and those have done really well. I think it'd be interesting to see a live action Miles Morales movie, because that character is becoming more popular, and it's a little different take on Spider-Man than just Peter Parker, which we've seen a million iterations of at this point. So I definitely think there's a lot of options, just because it's been around so long, the character of Spider-Man and that whole universe. So I think there's a lot you can do with it, and these offshoots like Venom, I think it works to a certain extent. It's something a little bit different. You get to dig into these characters without having it only be about Spider-Man. So I think there's a lot of depth you can go into and a lot of variety that maybe they'll get into soon. But yeah, I'd be interested to see like how far they're going to keep doing this and using different characters in that universe, but with or without Spider-Man. And I know they're making more Spider-Man movies as well. I think there's a 4th one that's set to come out in the somewhat near future. So I don't know what direction they're going to go with that either. But, it's kind of funny because in my whole lifetime, it's like there's been some kind of new Spider-Man related content like every year or two, it feels like, and like there's so much of it you almost can't keep up with it. But I guess kind of playing off of that, I would ask like, what are your guys' experiences with whether specifically Spider-Man or just like the Marvel universe? Like, do you have certain pieces of media from that you really enjoy that maybe you'd like to see more of, or like see them head in a certain direction with that?
I mean, Spider-Man's probably one of my favorite superhero movie like series. I remember watching, I believe it was Homecoming with all the different villains like coming back.
Oh,
Or is that No Way Home?
That's No Way Home.
No Way Home. Yeah, like so that's the one that stuck out to me the most, like as of recently. But yeah, I feel like Spider-Man out of like all the superhero movies has been probably one of the most consistent series out of all of them.
Yeah, no, the Spider-Man series, like I really enjoyed like the video game for it. It's like so much fun.
Yeah, that's I love Spider-Man video games. Like I've been playing those like it feels like my whole life. Like I don't know if you guys ever played. There's a one that came out for PlayStation 2 that was like loosely based off of the second movie with Tobey Maguire in it, and it was so much fun. It was back when like open world video games weren't really much of a thing. So but like you could just like swing around in this like little like New York map and stuff like that, and it was like my favorite game. And then when they came out with these new ones, it was like this is everything I liked about those games but just better, and it was like the coolest thing ever. Like Spider-Man video games when they're done well can be so much fun and just like feel like you are that character. So I think that's an area that I really hope we keep seeing more of, because like I don't know, there's something really fun about being able to like take control of the character, not just sit and watch what they're doing. So I think more. I know there's a Wolverine game they're working on that comes out I think this year or next year, which I love because I love that character as well. Really enjoyed seeing the Deadpool movie with him in it. So yeah, I think those like seeing more of those video games would be really interested. I'd be really interested to see if they keep kind of going with that. I think the general consensus of the Venom movies was that the first one was pretty good, and then a lot less people like the second one. So I'll be interested to see if they kind of bring it back, or if maybe it kind of keeps going in the wrong direction. And if it does keep going that direction, if they're going to keep trying to make more, or if they're just going to cut it off, or if they have a planned ending.
The name The Last Dance to me kind of makes it seem like, do they want this to be the last one?
Right.
Yeah.
That would seem like it, yeah. So it's like I kind of am expecting that, but then it's also like if it does well, are they just going to be like, well, we can keep making more of it, right? So it's like,
yeah, definitely.
I feel like so many movies do that where it's like, oh yeah, this is the last one, and then they're like, but it's not really though, because we want money. I do think it would be nice to see a franchise that does like have a planned ending and just cuts it off, because I feel like so many things right now, it's like they just make them until it's not profitable anymore, so then it just kind of abruptly ends. So I do really appreciate stuff that like they set out to end like after this many movies, this many seasons, whatever it is, and just cut it off. Like I think of like if you've watched Breaking Bad, it's like at a certain point that show just has to end, and like when it ended, like it was still a very highly rated show. Like the last episodes are like some of the most highly rated episodes of any TV show. At a certain point, you just have to say this is the end of the story. Like there's no more. And they've done some like spin-off things and
Better Call Saul.
Keep it going that way. And I just finished Better Call Saul not long ago, but like even that, then that had a planned end. And that in a way is kind of like with Spider-Man's like the offshoots, like this Venom story, it's like its own thing. So it's like you can make this story, have it end, and not have it affect all these other things. And those things can end and continue in different ways, instead of just trying to like bring characters back to life and like change everything you did in the past. And so I do appreciate like if with this movie they actually have a planned ending, which I mean, if it is a planned ending, I feel like it usually means that a character dies. So we'll see if that's what they do, or if they find some other way to do it. But it'll be interesting to see, how they actually plan to do that. If this is going to actually be the end of this, if they're going to tie Spider-Man into it, which I don't know if they will or not, or if it is, how that's going to play into it. But
do you guys want to take a guess on how many countries this movie was filmed in?
It was filmed in?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't think it was more than one, but now I
3?
feel like it's probably a few.
3, yeah.
Really?
Which ones?
Spain, U.S., and United Kingdom.
Interesting.
I know.
I
and it was filmed in UFC offices in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, like that has me really confused. Like what happens in this movie to where they were like bringing it to Spain?
Yeah, we need to go to Spain.
Right, because like from what I remember in the other movies, it's like all like in San Francisco. Like they don't go anywhere. So like I don't know what they would have to do. So I'm curious to see like what that entails. Like, and I don't know. I feel like Venom is usually a pretty like localized character when he's used. Like normally it's like New York. This one they have San Francisco, but it's like kind of contained within one area. So I'm curious to see the direction they go with that, because I don't know why you would need that character to be in those places, but that surprises me. Do we know, were the other ones filmed anywhere else as far as you know? Because I don't think they were, or if they, like, I don't think they were supposed to be anywhere else. And I know sometimes movies film in places that they aren't actually supposed to be in movie, but I would think they wouldn't do international unless they had to. Because I imagine it's a lot more expensive. But
it looks like the second one was, there was one in England. Looks like just England and United States.
Well, it sounds like Venom's going to Spain for something. So we'll see what takes him there. I don't really know why that would happen, but I also don't know what, I mean, we haven't seen the movie, so we don't know what they do, but that's interesting. I would not have guessed that. I would have assumed it was all in the U.S., so I don't know. We'll see how that goes as well. Do you guys have any other last thoughts on this movie, whether it's, what we can expect to see, what we've seen in the past, or anything that you want to talk about?
I would say I hope they end the series after this movie, but yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I just hope it's good.
Yeah, I think it will be good, considering that it's just a last dance, so it's gonna be like probably like a cliffhanger, like ending. Like we might be thinking like, oh, is there gonna be another one? But maybe that'll be it for that. Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting. Like I said, I really like the character. I think it's good. I'll be interested to see if like it is a more serious approach than the other ones, because it's supposedly the last one. If we'll see more of a, or like a less comedic tone, a more serious angle from it, more dramatic. So maybe it'll be a little bit different, or maybe it'll be the same and then it just ends. We'll see. But I'm curious to see if we see an uptick in the ratings, or if it just kind of steadily goes down into the end. So we'll see. But I think the character's really cool. I've seen it in video games, shows, movies, and it's always one of my favorite characters in superhero stuff. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. So we'll be looking forward to that. So on that note, I think that's all we have today for StarNotes. I've never done an outro for StarNotes, so I don't know what they normally do. But yeah, this has been us talking about Venom. Curious to hear what anyone else thinks about it. If you're excited to see StarNotes, well, I hope you're excited to see StarNotes, in addition to Venom, which is what I was trying to say. So I hope you're excited to see that movie. If you have thoughts, you can comment on that. And yeah, we hope that you'll be back for more episodes of StarNotes, maybe with some of us, maybe not. We'll see. Thanks for listening. And this has been StarNotes with the boys.